Setting up the meeting right now. Looks like we are live, so go ahead.
Welcome to this meeting. This is the meeting of the Utilities Committee. Today is Monday, April 27th, and it's approximately 5 o'clock in the afternoon. My name is John Twilliger. I'm filling in for Mr. Allen. Mr. Twist is also present with us. I believe Jill is going to provide us with information as to what we are to discuss this afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we're talking about the Americans with Disabilities Act Transition Plan, or it's also called ADA Transition Plan. So staff is asking that council adopts the ADA plan and authorizes routine updates as improvements are made. So just to give you a little bit of background, the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, was passed in the early 1990s, and the ADA plan actually does require a transition plan. I believe probably in the early 90s, a transition plan was created for the city, but it wasn't kept up to date as most government entities. So in early 2018, ODOT was reaching out to all entities, and they were kind of re-educating Ohio entities about the transition plan. And so in 2019, we actually started our transition plan, because the whole thing with the transition plan is that we need to have one up to date, because ODOT's going to start tying funding to the transition plan. Now, that being said, if we talk about ADA just as a general, it's not that our facilities are purposefully not ADA compliant. I mean, we've been ADA compliant, and we, are replacing curb ramps in the, whenever we come across curb ramps, whenever a citizen may address or voice a concern about a curb ramp, we are replacing them, as we have money in the budget, as quickly as we can. So there's a lot of other things that are involved other than curb ramps, but just wanted to give you guys a little offset, separate from this transition plan. It's not like we weren't doing anything until we created this transition plan. We are. So, but the transition plan essentially, it assigns an ADA coordinator, which is myself. And then it does a couple of other things. What we did in 2019 is we went around to all of our city facilities and we assessed them from an ADA standpoint. And it can get pretty down to nitty gritty. Like some of the comments on the self-evaluation for city facilities is, if you're talking about a person that can't see and they're looking for the Braille sign for the name of a door, that sign needs to be a certain distance from the floor. And some of our signs or our little identifiers for rooms aren't a certain distance from the floor and things like that. So all of the self-evaluation identifies all of those items in our city facilities, as well as we did at the same time we went out and we assessed our public right-of-way. So talking about curb ramps, talking about width of sidewalks, talking about, and more so from a general standpoint. And then the next thing that was identified after we did the self-evaluation is then we kind of said, well, are there capital improvement projects? So as we don't have to create and implement capital improvement projects other than what we already have in the budget, but we just need to identify those in this transition plan. And so what we did as part of this transition plan is we've attached our capital improvement program, like our 5-year CIP, that we continue to monitor and update as we go through budget every year. So I know I haven't provided a copy of the transition plan. Right now, I'm actually trying to get it all in one document and something. I know that size isn't a huge deal if we post it on the website, but I'm having a little bit of issue. Every time I combine all these documents in a PDF, it's giving me an error. So I'm working on that to get it up so that if you guys did have questions or wanted to see it. But essentially, so it just, So we just need council to authorize it. And I put in there asking if we could do routine updates so that we don't, every time we get a project done, we don't have to come back to council and say, hey, our transition plan obviously is changing because we've gotten some capital items done. For example, a couple of the other capital items that we've identified, like when we did the Hobart Arena expansion a couple years ago, you know, we made that west entry ADA compliant where it wasn't previously. When we're doing the fire station, obviously we'll do the new fire station 1 will be ADA compliant. And then as well as the other capital programs that are associated with it would be like sidewalk repair program that we do every year. And we've started spending some of the CDBG funds and doing curb ramps more than our sidewalk program. So I have rambled on enough. That's what the plan involves. Mute yourself, Patrick. And so I'm here to answer any of your guys' questions or anything like that.
Mr. Twist, anything?
I just have one question. On our self-evaluation, was there any items that were needed to be addressed immediately in 2020? Or are these smaller items that will correct as we go? Was there any immediate needs for 2020?
No, there was not. Nothing that was if you want to say like a big gaping hole. No, there was not anything that needs to be an absolute immediate, nor did everybody made it clear, and ADA doesn't say that you have to go out and create, you know, capital funds for this. I mean, Troy, yeah, so I could go into more detail, but I'll spare you.
No, that's fine.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay, a question that it may not be in the parameters of the city, but if there are federally owned buildings that are non-compliant, do they come under the jurisdiction of city ADA plans?
No, the federal government has their own, they're their own entity. You know, we may talk to them about issues that would come up, but when it comes to requirements, they do not have to comply with any of our orders.
Okay. Okay, then our question is, we are to approve the updated ADA transition plan.
Mr.
Well,
Toll-
first of all, are there questions?
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, is how soon do we have to approve this plan? I mean, is this, obviously you're not looking for emergency legislation on it, but
We're
is
not
there
looking
a deadline we have to approve the plan?
No, I think it's something that we were, had been, I guess, strongly encouraged for the last several years to have in place. And ODOT is pushing more communities to do this. It is a requirement that we are supposed to have something, but it's not necessary to do as an emergency. It's merely a document that identifies with any future program or any future project that we make sure that we do certain things to be ADA compliant. We already do that when architects and engineers look at designs, redesigns, renovations, because whether you have a plan or not, you're required to make renovations, new buildings ADA compliant. This puts it into one document. It's our set of guidelines to ensure that we do those things and that we include those kind of things whenever we're doing budget estimates for future projects.
And the reason I ask that is that, I mean, we have, you know, Jill has the plan, nobody else can look at it. And
The plan's very simple. It's 12 pages
but
and it's really just.
it hasn't been, I mean, it wasn't included in the packet, and from what you're saying, you can't print it out. So, I mean, essentially the only one that can read it is you.
Well, we're going to, hopefully tomorrow we can work out it may be just a version of PDF that we need to make sure we have. The main document's 12 pages. The the appendices that have all the details, which are part of the document, their storage space is over 60 meg. And so it's a very comprehensive appendices, I guess, because there are multiple. And so once we get that compiled, we will have it on the website, and we'll send you an email that says, hey, you want to get down to the nitty gritty, here it is. That's really the only way that we could transmit it to you. Otherwise, it would never have gotten through email.
Okay, I just always like to see something, read something before we approve it, I guess.
Yep.
Are there any other questions?
If I may.
Yes.
So we have had this document, and this came from the feds or the state?
We created this document. It's a federal
Guideline?
requirement that is passed down to ODOT. But all the ADA is federal law, and then it's up to the states to enforce their version of it. And that's where ODOT got involved, and that's how it came to us.
Okay, so the large document that you're talking about is what has come from ODOT?
No, the large document is what we generated after last summer. We had an intern and some staff that went around and did the inventory of everything. And so what you'll see, there's probably some, Jill, you can help me on this, but there's probably some Templar boilerplate language in there. But when it comes down to the complete inventory of everything, that is what we generated.
Okay,
Correct.
but the guidelines themselves were generated through the Fed and the state.
Correct.
Okay, and so this, and to Jeff's point, the public, how are we going to make this document available for them to view?
It'll be on our website. We will we can put out a press release that tells them where they can go if they want to see it.
And Jill, your comment of the self-assessment that was done last year, did you say?
Yeah, last year.
2019.
And so this is it an annual update that we have to do now?
It identifies as a periodic update. And it's not, it's very, so I see it as a 1 to 3 year update, because if we're not doing any work on any facilities, there's really no update. And then when you talk about the sidewalks and the curb ramps and things like that, obviously we are all the time updating those, but it's a very comprehensive, the ADA plan kind of says, let me get to that, 178.5 miles of sidewalk. So we're not going, okay, we're not going to in front of your house and saying, okay, all this sidewalk's compliant. This ADA plan is a very comprehensive, high view, kind of 30,000 foot view of the program.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? So, Mr. Twist, how do you feel about moving forward to approve the updated ADA transition plan?
Yeah, I would move forward and if they can just send out the plan before the next council meeting, that'd be great, but move forward.
Okay, and I agree. So hearing that, we've got 2/3 approved. Anything else, Mr. Titterington?
No, sir.
Okay, then we can stand adjourned.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.